She took out a $20,000 loan in my name, then ran off with my fiancé. What I did next shocked everyone, including her. They say a mother's love is unconditional. Mine came with interest rates and a 2-week cruise to Santorini paid for with my ruined credit in the man I planned to marry. I still remembered the way the bank's fluorescent lights buzzed above me, like 1,000 tiny gnats mocking my optimism. The credit officer smiled, a tight, bureaucratic curve of the lips, and stamped my application with a swift, declarative motion. "Congratulations," she said, as if I'd won something. "You're approved." Only I hadn't applied for a loan. My mother had. In my name. I found out a week later, through a cheerful email from the bank with the subject line, "Welcome to your new personal loan." I stared at the numbers $20,000 and then the name, Emily Claire Radley. My name. I remember blinking at the screen the way one might blink at a UFO landing on the front lawn. Not in disbelief, but in that stunned, delayed detachment that precedes panic. I called my mom first. I still had that instinct then. "Mom?" I asked, already knowing. She didn't hesitate. "Oh honey," she said. "You're being so dramatic." Dramatic. That was her favorite diagnosis. I could have been on fire and she'd ask if I was trying to make a scene. "You took out a loan in my name," I said. "Without telling me." A pause. "Then you weren't using your credit." She said it the way someone might explain borrowing a sweater. "I was saving it," I said. "Well, now it's doing something useful," she chirped. "And it's not like I won't pay it back." "When?" I asked. "How?" She changed the subject. It would have been bad enough if that were the whole story. But it wasn't. That was just the prologue. The betrayal didn't stop at theft. It had legs. And arms. And a tan. His name was Aiden. My Aiden. Or at least he used to be. We'd been dating for a year and a half. He met my mom a few times. She fluttered around him like a moth in designer linen, touching his arm too often and laughing too hard at his jokes. I thought it was harmless. Annoying, sure. But harmless. And then came the Instagram photos. Of course. The first one popped up a week after the loan email. My mother. On a yacht. Holding a glass of rose like a weapon. Caption, "Living my best life." Hashtag Santorini vibes. I squinted. Something about the background, the curve of a familiar shoulder. I zoomed in. It was Aiden. No tag. No mention. Just his back, shirtless, unmistakable. At first I told myself it wasn't him. That I was imagining it. That the mind sees what it fears. But then came the second photo. This time he was fully visible. Smiling. Holding a drink. Sitting beside her. Their legs touching. Still no tag. Still no explanation. I called him, of course. 3 times. No answer. Then a text. "Hey Em, can we talk when I get back?" I stared at it for an hour, my mind constructing and deconstructing every possible meaning. Can we talk? Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "This isn't what it looks like." Just, "Can we talk?" My chest felt like it was folding in on itself. My throat tightened. I texted back something short, something cool, something that didn't show the cracks. Then I threw my phone across the room. My roommate, Kara, found me on the kitchen floor an hour later, still sitting in the same spot. I told her everything. "You're kidding," she said. Then, "Actually, no. You're not. This sounds exactly like your mom." Kara had met my mother twice. Once at Thanksgiving. Once at a gallery opening. She'd immediately pegged her as a narcissist wrapped in pearls. She always gave me the creeps, Kara said, handing me a glass of wine. Like someone who sells essential oils but secretly eats people. That night, I lay in bed replaying every conversation I'd ever had with my mother. Every time she'd asked about Aiden. Every offhand comment. Every lingering glance. I kept asking myself one question: when did she decide he was hers? And what did he say when she did? 2 days later, I got another email from the bank. My first loan payment was due. The amount was small, but the message was loud. I was on the hook. My mother wasn't answering my calls. Aiden had gone dark again. And somewhere in the Aegean Sea, the two of them were drinking my future through plastic straws with little umbrellas. 3 days after the second Instagram post, I stopped checking my phone. It wasn't that I didn't care anymore, I just needed a break from the hot slap of humiliation every time someone asked, "Is this your mom with Aiden?" followed by some forced sympathy like, "Wow, they look happy?" I took sick leave from work. I didn't have the flu, but I did have sudden onset public betrayal disorder, which felt close enough. My boss was kind. She said, "Take the time you need," in that HR-approved tone that implied I should be back by Monday with mascara on. Meanwhile, Kara, God bless her cynical heart, decided that if I wasn't going to stalk them, she would. This is your crucifixion arc, she told me, standing over my laptop like a detective with a grudge. Every villain needs their receipts. She was already deep into digital sleuthing. Her tabs were a masterpiece of quiet rage. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Google Maps, and a private Reddit thread she claimed was mostly for fun. She built a timeline. Aiden had requested PTO 3 days before the loan email came. My mom had bought a new suitcase from Nordstrom the week prior. And there, buried in a carousel post, was a photo of a boarding pass business class to Athens. 2 names, one blurry. Your mom posted this? I asked. Kara nodded. #blessed. I'm going to eat my own face. I'd always known my mother was a piece of work, but this was another level. This was espionage with a side of Aperol spritz. The woman who'd once scolded me for getting a second ear piercing had now committed identity fraud and stolen my boyfriend, and she wasn't even being discreet about it. I drafted an email. Not a message. Not a text. An email. Cold, clean, efficient. Subject: you stole my life. Body: I hope Santorini is worth it. The money, the man, the credit score. I'll be contacting a lawyer. Don't reply unless it's with a repayment plan. I didn't send it. Not yet. I saved it in drafts like a loaded gun I wasn't quite ready to fire. Instead, I started doing the math. The loan was for $20,000. The payments were monthly with 6.7% interest. My credit had already dipped 27 points. I'd need to cut my gym membership, stop ordering takeout, and start praying for a sudden inheritance or a meteor. Then came the voicemail. Hi, sweetheart, my mother's voice sang, as if nothing had happened. Just wanted to let you know we're extending the trip. Aiden's planning something special. I think it might be a proposal. The end of the message was punctuated by laughter. Hers. His. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the wall. Kara was the one who finally spoke. That's not a voicemail. That's psychological warfare. I couldn't cry. Not anymore. I'd cried after the email. I'd cried after the second Instagram post. I'd cried after I found one of Aiden's t-shirts still in my laundry. But now? I felt like a field after a fire, dry, empty, and oddly serene. There's a moment in betrayal when the pain stops being sharp. It dulls, settles into your bones, and leaves behind something colder: clarity. That night, I ordered pizza. Extra cheese. I paid for it with the same card now shackled to my mother's little romantic getaway. Poetic. The delivery guy handed it to me and said, name on the order was Emily? That's my sister's name. I nodded. Cool. Then I shut the door. After dinner, I opened my saved draft. I added a line, and if you ever speak to me again, do it through your lawyer. Then I hit send. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with a fraud attorney. The receptionist, a weary-sounding woman named Janet, told me they dealt with a lot of family drama lately. I believed her. Did she forge your signature? The lawyer asked. She must have, I said. I never signed anything. He nodded. That's a felony. A beat passed. Will she go to jail? I asked. He gave me a measured look. Do you want her to? I didn't answer. Instead, I handed over every email, text, and screenshot I had. The Instagram photos. The voicemail. Kara's timeline. A copy of my credit report. The lawyer leaned back and let out a low whistle. This is extensive. Tell me about it. I left the office lighter. Not healed, not even close. But lighter. Like I'd finally handed off the weight. That night, I got another text from Aiden. Hey, I didn't want you to hear it this way. Your mom and I, it just kind of happened. I never meant to hurt you. I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. You didn't hurt me. You humiliated yourself. Congrats on dating someone who changed your diapers when you were a toddler. Then I blocked him. 2 days later, my mother replied to the email. Subject: overreacting much? Body: Emily, I don't know why you're being so hostile. Aiden and I have a connection. You should be happy for us. You've always been so dramatic when things don't go your way. I raised you better than this. I didn't reply, but I did take a screenshot and forward it to the lawyer. And then I waited. They say time heals. What they don't say is how long you have to sit in silence, listening to your own heartbeat trying to stitch itself back together. 2 weeks passed. In that time, my mother posted 8 more photos. Sunsets. Seafood. Aiden's arm making cameo appearances in 2 of them. One boomerang of a champagne toast, captioned, celebrating life's surprises. I didn't check my credit report anymore. I knew it wasn't going to be a good surprise. The lawyer, Mr. Green, a calm man with the charisma of an exhausted teacher, called me 3 times. Once to confirm the signature was forged, he had a handwriting analyst, once to file a report, and once to say the bank was open to discussion. We may be able to classify it as fraud, he said, provided you're willing to press charges. The words landed like stones. Legal terms for family betrayal. You don't have to decide now, he said gently. But if you want to fix your credit, that's the road. I thought about it for 2 days. I walked around the block. I lay on the floor. I Googled, can you sue your own mother? And famous people who cut off their parents. And finally I said yes. I wanted my name back. The paperwork was thick. Emotionally and physically. Kara helped me fill it out, pouring tea and humming murder ballads under her breath like some domestic avenging angel. What's the goal? She asked one night. I didn't say revenge. I said dignity. The suit was filed. Official, impersonal, and heavy with legal phrasing. I forwarded the bank's fraud complaint. Mr. Green submitted everything. Then we waited. My mother responded exactly as expected, with disbelief, fury, and a new Instagram post. A family divided is still a family. But some people will never understand true love. #blessed not broken. I didn't screenshot that one. I didn't need to. It was already seared into the inside of my eyelids. Aiden predictably stayed quiet. The last echo of him was the echo of my own poor judgment. My therapist called him a parasite in flip-flops. I called him a loss filed under lessons. And then the call came. Mr. Green, cheerful for once. The bank has reversed the loan. It's been reclassified as fraudulent. Your credit will be restored within 60 days. I sat down. Slowly. Wait, I said. That's it. Well, he said, we're not done with the civil suit. But as far as the bank is concerned, yes. That's it. I didn't cry. I laughed. Not the bitter, dry laugh I'd perfected since this all began. A real one. Short and shocked and almost human. 60 days. My name was mine again. The next day, I received a letter from my mother. Not an email. Not a voicemail. A real letter. Handwritten in that tight cursive she used for grocery lists and guilt. Emily, I never thought you'd turn against me like this. I did what I did because I believed in love, and because I knew you'd bounce back. You're strong. I made you that way. If you go through with this, you'll regret it. You only get one mother. There was no apology. Just implication. I showed it to Mr. Green. He smiled without mirth. Keep it, he said. It might help later. Then came the knock on my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. She looked older. Somehow smaller. The woman who once filled every room like a chandelier now looked like a hallway light bulb. Flickering, uncertain. Can we talk? She said. I didn't invite her in. I thought we were past this, she began. We're not. She looked at me like I was a disappointing salad. I'm your mother, Emily. And I'm your daughter, I said. Not your credit line. Not your competition. Not your replacement. She winced. There was a pause. The kind that stretches and dares you to fill it. You're really going to take this to court? She asked. You already did, I said. When you signed my name and ran off with my boyfriend. Her face twisted. He was never yours. I nodded. Which is why you're perfect for each other. She didn't speak for a moment. Then, with the grace of someone who's lost the upper hand but not the ego, she turned. I hope this makes you happy, she said, walking down the steps. It didn't. But it helped. The civil suit would take months. But I had time. I had patience. And for the first time in years I had peace. Aiden never reached out again. He disappeared back into whatever world swallows men who trade love for opportunity. Kara called it poetic. I called it overdue. And me? I opened a new savings account. Under lock. Under password. Under a name no one else would sign. The first time I saw her in the courtroom, she was dressed like she was attending a charity gala. Cream blazer, pearl earrings, a faint touch of pink on her cheeks that made her look vaguely angelic. If you squinted hard and ignored the steaming crater where a conscience should be. She didn't look at me. Not once. Aiden was nowhere to be found. Whether he'd left her or just refused to be dragged into court was unclear. Either way, I didn't miss him. Mr. Green had prepared me. He'd said things like, "Don't react emotionally, and let the facts speak." But nothing prepares you for watching your mother argue under oath that she believed I'd agreed to the loan. That I'd been confused, and probably forgot. That I'd always struggled with details. It was like watching a magician pull lies out of a silk hat stitched with your own childhood memories. "She gave me verbal permission," she said, voice calm, eyes dry. "She said she wanted to help. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to yell. But I didn't. I sat, clutching the edge of the seat, reminding myself that dignity was my only real weapon now." Mr. Green laid everything out, the forged signature, the email evidence, the voicemail, the bank statement, even the photos. God, the photos. One of them had her holding a champagne glass with Aiden grinning beside her. The caption timestamped 3 days after the loan was processed. She blinked at the screen, unimpressed. "Coincidence," she said. "Emily and I had a misunderstanding. That's all." She didn't cry. Not once. If anything, she looked bored. It was the judge. A woman with deep-set eyes and the expression of someone who'd seen far too many families implode over money, who finally broke the rhythm. "Ms. Radley," she said, "do you understand what identity theft means?" My mother smiled. "I'm a mother," she said. "Everything I've ever done was for her." I flinched. Not because I believed her, but because part of me still wanted to. That part doesn't die easy. It starves. Slowly. The trial lasted 3 days. On the second day, my mother's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive. He brought up my blocked calls, my cold emails, the fact that I hadn't spoken to her in over a month. "She's angry," he said. "Understandably. But anger isn't fraud." Then Kara testified. She wore black and looked like she'd bite someone if asked. "She used Emily," Kara said, voice sharp. "And when she couldn't control her anymore, she tried to erase her. Financially. Romantically. Personally." Even the clerk raised an eyebrow. By the third day, the outcome was inevitable. The judge ruled in my favor. My mother was ordered to pay damages, court fees, and a public acknowledgement of responsibility. There would be no jail time, first offense, no priors, extenuating circumstances. But the ruling was on record. Her reputation would bruise. And my name would be mine again. Officially. After the verdict, she approached me. Not with an apology. With a warning. "You're going to regret this," she said. "You'll need me one day." I stared at her. "You needed me first," I said. "And you sold me for 2 weeks of sunshine and a guy who buys shampoo in bulk." She opened her mouth, closed it. Then she turned and walked away. Heels clicking against the polished floor like punctuation marks in a sentence I was finally done reading. Outside it was raining. The kind of soft, persistent drizzle that makes the world feel like it's exhaling. Kara and I got burgers. We didn't talk about court. We talked about dogs and reality TV and whether or not we were too old to start a band. That night I packed a box. Photos of my mother. Childhood drawings she kept in a folder marked my perfect girl. Birthday cards in her looping cursive, all signed "Love Always, Mom." I didn't throw them away. I just put them in the closet. High shelf. Out of reach. Grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a silence that follows you from room to room. 2 weeks later I received a check. Not from her. From the bank, a restitution for interest, fees, and emotional distress, courtesy of their PR department. I deposited it. I paid off 2 credit cards. I bought myself a coffee table that didn't wobble. I didn't hear from her again. Not until the wedding invitation. It came in a gold envelope. "Mr. and Mrs. Aiden Maxwell. Request the pleasure of your presence." I didn't read the rest. I didn't need to. I laughed. Not cruelly. Not bitterly. Just laughed. Then I fed the invitation to my shredder, piece by piece, until it was gone. The wedding was in Tuscany. Or maybe Lake Como. Somewhere with old villas in young regret. I saw the pictures not because I looked for them, but because people who don't know when kindness becomes cruelty, sent them to me. "You should see this," one message said. "Your mom looks amazing." Amazing. She always did know how to perform joy. Especially when someone else paid for it. The photos were a carousel of delusion. Aiden in a pale blue suit, smiling like a man who hadn't read the fine print of his own life. My mother in a white dress. Not ivory, not champagne, but wedding white, standing beneath a floral arch as if this was her first great act of love instead of her final escape hatch. I looked at exactly 3 pictures. Then I blocked the sender. Grief, I've learned, is not a clean wound. It festers, it reopens, it heals sideways. And when the person you're grieving is still alive, still smiling, still posting, still calling herself blessed, the wound never quite knows when to close. But I moved on. Not dramatically. Not in a way that would look good on social media. Quietly. I found a new apartment. Smaller, sunnier, safer. I took a job that paid less but let me sleep. I stopped apologizing for what she did. And when people asked about my mother, I told the truth. She's no longer part of my life. They usually nodded. Some asked why. I gave them a sentence. She took everything I gave her, and then she took more. That was enough. Kara moved in with her girlfriend. I visited them on weekends. We drank wine and watched terrible documentaries and made fun of every man we'd ever loved. Therapy helped. Not all at once, but in the way sunlight helps after a long winter. My therapist taught me that forgiveness isn't reconciliation. That you can let go without letting back in. That surviving someone's love can be harder than surviving their hate. One day I found the box. High shelf. Closet. Covered in dust. I opened it. Photos of birthday cakes. My mother holding me, smiling. A drawing I made in kindergarten, 2 stick figures holding hands. Me and Mommy, it said. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the box and put it back. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I finally could. Last week I got a letter from the bank. My credit score had fully recovered. I framed it like a diploma. Aiden never resurfaced. I imagine he's either regretting everything or pretending he doesn't need to. Either way, he's not my problem. He never really was. And my mother? She sent one more letter. No return address. Just 3 lines. I hope you find peace. I'm sorry you couldn't be happy for me. Love, Mom. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, but because I didn't owe her closure she never gave me. Instead, I sat down, poured a glass of wine, and wrote something else. The whole story. Not to shame her. Not to warn others. But to remind myself that I lived through it. That I walked out of that fire not unburned but walking. Some scars stay. Some lessons too. You don't always get the mother you deserve. But you always have the right to become the daughter you choose to be. And I chose myself. Finally. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my story. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and click the bell, so you don't miss more true life stories just like this one.